I'm going to be going over the way I outlined my novel, the way I've seen other people outline their novel, more or less. I'm not saying this is the way you should outline your novel. I think every novel outline is personal to the author that is writing it. Some people decide like what every single chapter is going to have before they start writing, and some people decide that they like the city of Boston. They're gonna write a book about Boston. It's up to you. So I'm going to be going over 2 ways you can kind of get the general idea of how you're going to start plotting your novel, and then what I did to build on top of that. So I'm going to be showing you a little flashcard of a diagram that I made. So there it is. You can see it. So this one is kind of the thing that we all learned when we were in like 6th or 7th grade. You know, you got the setup where you like set up the plot, the settings, the characters, things like that. The rising action, where a majority of the story happens. This is where all the world building happens, just what's going to happen in the novel, building up friendships, relationships, things like that. The climax, the battle, the discovery, whatever big huge thing is going to happen near the end of your novel, that's where that happens. The falling action, what happens after the climax, how it affects the relationships, how it affects what's going on in the world, things like that. And then this also, the resolution, tying up all the loose ends that have happened all throughout the plot because of the climax, because of whatever. You know, we kind of all know what's going on there. This circle, this really amazingly drawn circle. This is the hero's journey, which I'm going to go into a little bit because I feel like if you haven't wrote a fantasy novel, you haven't wrote a hero's journey yet, you may not know what that entails. So I'm gonna go into a little bit. I'm not gonna focus on it too heavily, except this is how I helped plan my novel, so that's why I'm going to be talking about it. So the hero's journey. I wrote notes on the back. I'm reading the notes to myself, so there's 3 main parts of the hero's journey. There's a tons of other little things in there along the circle, but I'm not going to get into them too much because, like I said, I'm looking at the time. This video already has 3 minutes in it, so I'm gonna speed it up a little. The 3 things are separation, initiation, and return. So, first, separation. Separation is like, I'm gonna use Harry Potter as an example. I think Harry Potter is a great fantasy novel. There are some things that are, I love Harry Potter. I'm not gonna, I have lots of Harry Potter stuff back there, but I'll get into that later. So separation. What happens in separation is like when Harry gets the letter from Hogwarts, Hagrid comes and takes him away from the cupboard under the stairs. He is going to Hogwarts. He's getting separated from his everyday life and the world that he knew, and being dragged into this new one that he knows like absolutely nothing about. Your character, your main character, the hero, will go through some sort of separation, whether that's like going to a new school or going to an amusement park, going somewhere where they discover that they're a magician. You know, it's different for everyone. You'll find it. You may not even realize that that's something that you're writing until you've already wrote it. And that's kind of the scary thing because I didn't even think of that, but that's exactly something that happens in my novel. So that's the first thing. The second thing, initiation, which sounds weird. It's not like your character is gonna get like knighted or like pulled into a cult. They could. I would read it. But I just mean like this is the part where the character's mentor comes in. This is where they start learning their magic if they have magic. This is where they come into their own. You know, this is where the character development starts happening. This is where the things on the journey happen that leads them to the ending. So I'm going to say, like in Harry Potter, this is where he meets Ron and Hermione. This is where he meets Professor Dumbledore. This is where he has his teachers and he is learning magic and becoming this magical wizard student. So that's kind of what that whole bit is about. And then the third bit, number 3, the return. This is coming back to where the character began at the end. So at the end of Harry Potter, he has to go back to his aunt and uncle's house. He has to go back to the cupboard under the stairs, but he is a new person. He's learned all these lessons. He's gone a long way, and he's grown from what he was before. Can you get what I'm saying? So that's the hero's journey. And that's kind of the structure that my novel follows. It's kind of the structure that most hero novels follow. If you read one, maybe think about it next time. See if you can spot it. This is going well so far. My camera's still filming, so I'm gonna speed up a little bit. This is how I did it. I did it in a couple of steps that may seem a little bit out of order. It's just how I was feeling it. So first I started with the characters. I have, I think, 6 main characters, like 2 main characters, 4 characters underneath that are also main characters, but a little less main, if you understand. It's kind of secondary characters, but still kind of main characters. So I fleshed the 6 of them out as much as I possibly could. Appearance, personality, age, anything like that. Anything that I could think of that I wanted to describe this character by, I wrote it down. So I have the 6 of those planned out. Then I went in and I did like, I think it was like 1,000-word, a 1,000-word summary of what was going to happen in the plot, what was going to happen in the beginning, the middle, and then the end. So I didn't put in all the scenes that are going to happen. I didn't put in all the places they're going to go, but I put in like Harry leaving, Harry going to Hogwarts, Harry having classes, meeting these friends, meeting Draco, meeting Voldemort, things like that. You know, it's just what's going to happen, what happens at the end. Yeah, so that's like a 1,000-word summary of beginning, middle, end. Then I did oh, also that's when you can incorporate this. When you're doing your little summary, that's when you can start putting in these sort of aspects, like what's going to happen here, 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 or what's happening here. That's kind of up to you. You can draw it, you can do a diagram, or you can just write it out in a paragraph like I did. Personal preference. All this is personal preference, guys. That's what writing is. Personal preference. I know a lot of people tell you you're writing for an audience, so you should think of what the audience likes, but getting there, that's all about you. I think writing in general is all about you. Publishers may think otherwise, but that's what I think personally. So after that, what I did was I set up my magic system and building out my world, because these two are really important when you're doing a fantasy novel that's going to include a separate world and magic or any other sort of thing like that, because inconsistencies can really be the downfall when you're trying to make a novel seem real but things aren't adding up. You understand? So like in Harry Potter, some people cast spells by like pointing their wand and saying a spell, but other people can just do it without saying anything at all and pointing their wand, and it's like, why? They never explain that. So that's kind of weird. That was the thing that I was like being a little weird about Harry Potter about earlier. There are some inconsistencies. You want to try to avoid that as much as possible, but clearly people have gotten away with it and still have really great novels that you can enjoy regardless. So, you know, but things you want to think of in a magic system. Where did it come from? How do you use your power? Is it energy? Is it mana? Is it you eat a plant and then you're magic? Is it radioactive? sort of things like that, you know? And then what kind of magic maybe? Like, is it elemental? Is it spells? Is it spoken words? Do you just say a string of numbers and then things happen? I don't know. You figure it out, you know? But you have to make it so that it makes sense. You know, you can't have, well, some people can do this and some people can do this, but we're not going to explain why. You have to make it more like Avatar: The Last Airbender. You know, like, if you have an earthbender who can punch a hole in a mountain, and you've watched enough episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender, you can infer that another earthbender could do exactly the same thing, you know? Okay, so that's that. And then planning out your world may be a bit more complicated, just in that worlds are big. You know, you have to plan out, if it's not the current world, if it's not like America, what is it going to look like? What kind of government is it going to have? Is it going to be a monarchy? Is it going to be a democracy? Are there going to be like fascist dictators? Like, what's it going to be? It's a hard thing to decide, possibly, if you don't really know what you're going for or haven't really thought about it yet. But it's really important to try to think of these things beforehand, so when you're explaining things in your story, everything seems to line up, you know? So you can also think of the tone. Is it going to be like Renaissance-y? Is it going to be modern? If it's Renaissance-y and then somebody suddenly pulls out an iPhone, it's going to be a little weird, right? So there's the inconsistency thing again. If you're going to have a tone and you're going to bring in something that doesn't match the tone, you either have to explain it or it's going to seem out of the ordinary. So there's that. You can do more research. I'll probably link some articles in the description box just to, you know, kind of give you more of a big group of research, right? Okay, so after that, I did character arcs. This is where it might seem a little out of order. Maybe I should have done them when I wrote out the characters, but I thought after writing what I want to happen in the plot, it was a lot easier for me to put in what I want the arc to be. Now, I only really fleshed out the arc for the two main characters, just because I felt like this makes the most sense. So your characters should not be static. I think dynamic characters are the thing that makes your novel most interesting over anything else. Characters are so important. And making sure that you have well-rounded characters that seem like real people is hard, and it's time-consuming, and it requires a lot of thinking. But I think having some sort of arc, some sort of dynamic characteristic, even if it's just that your character was really reserved in the beginning and now they're kind of extroverted because whatever happened, it's a change. They changed, and that's what you want to happen. If someone goes on this big life-changing journey, they're not going to stay the same. I mean, how many people do you know that go through something terrible or the same person after, or go through something amazing or the same person after? Events in your life change the person that you are, even if you don't really realize it at first. So making sure that you add that into your novel really adds a sort of je ne sais quoi, you know, a little bit of realism. So after that, something that I'm not going too much into, but you can add in symbolism, you can add in plot twists, you can put in what the tone is going to be, if there's tone shifts, sort of things like that. If you want the background to suddenly be black when you walk into a certain place, to kind of bring the tone to like this mysterious, like scary sort of thing, then put this in your symbolism, tone, whatever section, you know, just something you can think about. I don't think YA novels, which is what I'm writing, if you're writing something different, then hey, really go too far into symbolism and things like that. But if it's something that you would like to include because you're really big on that kind of stuff, go ahead, flesh it out, you know? I'm just gonna go into some things that I've kind of touched on, don't really want to go too into because this video is already really long. So the first bit is chapter outlines. I'm not doing this. That's a lot of work. I may do it like as I go along, just like put in what I want to happen in the next chapter, but just to start out, I'm not gonna even bother. If you want to plan out every single chapter, more power to you, friends. Point of views. I think you should establish before you start writing what the point of view is. If you want to do it after you've planned everything out, that's up to you. I kind of do it just when I'm thinking about an idea of what I'm writing. If it's going to be, you know, first, third omniscient, it's up to you. Figure it out. I don't know. I can't say that one point of view is better than another in this sort of case. I think it's really all up to you and what you think will be best for your novel. You know what's best for your novel. That's it. And the last thing is settings. So if you haven't already gone into this, when you're world building, kind of figure out what your settings are going to be at different points in your novel. Don't keep it all in the same place, really, especially if it's a fantasy novel. What kind of world building are you doing if you're staying in one spot the whole time, you know? So just something to think about. All of these things are just something to think about, mostly. I'm telling you what I'm doing in my novel, what I've researched to be the best things to do in your novel, but like I said at the beginning, writing is such a personal experience. No one can tell you what to do. No one can tell you to change what you're doing. And if they do, then you can take it as constructive criticism, or you can just blow it off. Really, it's like art. Writing is an art. It is. Definitely. So what you're doing, if you love it, if you think it's the best thing you've ever created, and you're happy with how it's coming out, don't let anybody tell you that you can't write what you're writing. As long as it's not like illegal. But you know what I mean. So, thank you guys for listening to this video. I'm sure it was a lot to sit through, but this is mostly for me anyway, to kind of document what I'm doing in my novel, to look back on in the future, maybe to help anybody who wants to write a high fantasy novel. But yeah, I'll probably be doing check-ins on how my writing's going, how much I've wrote, sort of things like that. So stay tuned if you want to know more about this book, since I didn't really go into it at all in this video. But I knew it was going to be long anyway, and good lord, my timestamp right now says 19 minutes, so I'm gonna go. So you guys have a great day. I will see you again soon. Bye.